Wait a minute, that's not right. A new era of SmackDown kicks off with a title defense inside a steel cage. But Roman Reigns returns to show that he's not changed at all. And one man proves to be El Grande in a long-running rivalry. Okay, and the news! And the news indeed, we were back for the series premiere of SmackDown on the USA Network. So let's begin with the undisputed WWE Championship inside a steel cage between Solo Sikoa and Cody Rhodes. Well, this one started off with Sikoa using the cage to his advantage early and often as he threw Rhodes into all four sides of the cage right away. And then shortly thereafter, when Rhodes ran at him, he flipped Rhodes right up into the cage again and threw him up against the cage a few more times. So pretty smart strategy from Sikoa there. But Rhodes was able to come back and he landed an amazing super Cody cutter off of nearly about 2/3 of the way up the cage onto Sikoa in the middle of the ring. And then, not to be outdone, Sikoa grabbed Rhodes as he was trying to escape from the top of the cage and landed a suplex on him all the way down onto the middle of the mat. So Corey Graves said that might actually be a brain buster, but I don't think so. I think that was really a superplex that maybe didn't quite hit the way he wanted it to. Well, nonetheless, right after that, both men landed their full arsenals, first with Solo landing 2 spinning solos on Rhodes, but he was unable to get the pin there. So Rhodes then countered a Samoan spike and into a disaster kick, followed by another Cody cutter. But that didn't get the job done either, and Sikoa then countered a crossroads into a hip attack, then a Samoan drop, and then a frog splash, which also did not get the job done. But minutes later, Rhodes was able to take control and he was able to climb to the top of the cage with Sikoa on the mat. But instead of winning the match by merely going over the edge of the cage and onto the floor on the outside, he decided to stand on top of the cage and fall back down with a crossbody. And it was at least successful by hitting Sikoa, but Cody, you had the match won there, man. So we have to say, what were you thinking? But the match continued and Rhodes then decided it was the smart thing to escape the cage by trying to crawl out of the ring through the door. But Sikoa had other thoughts there as he recovered just enough to slam Rhodes' head up against the door. But Sikoa went for a running Samoan spike and Rhodes countered that straight into a crossroads to get the win and successfully retain the title for his 6th title defense as he goes to 12-1 in all one-on-one matches in 2024. Well, for Sikoa, this is his 2nd straight loss to Rhodes in title matches, so Cody probably rightfully said that he was done with him. But Sikoa is now just 1-6-1 in one-on-one matches, so he probably does not deserve another shot. But of course, the upset of the night, if there was one, was that the Bloodline did not get involved during the match. But they wasted no time as soon as the match was over, and they all scaled the outside of the cage, which led Rhodes to turn around straight into a Samoan spike by Sikoa. As all 4 members of the Bloodline overwhelmed Rhodes, Sikoa had Fatu land a mighty moonsault on him and then ordered him to go to the top of the cage for what would be an even mightier moonsault. But before he could attempt it, Roman Reigns' music hit and he, well, took his good old time to saunter to the ring per usual. And he took about what felt like about 5 minutes. I'm sure it wasn't quite that long, but once he finally got there, he did walk into the ring and close the door behind him, and he was able to quickly dispatch of Tonga and Loa, but Sikoa was able to hit him from behind and take him out momentarily before Reigns returned the tables and hit him with a Superman punch. Fortunately for Sikoa, Fatu was outside the ring. Now, why he would go out of the cage on the outside to the floor instead of going inside the cage to help the other 3 members of the bloodline doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. But I guess at this exact moment it happened to work out for Solo. So Fatu pulled Sikoa outside of the ring, and Tonga and Loa then attacked again against Reigns, and this time they were able to overwhelm him, but Cody Rhodes finally recovered from that Samoan spike and inexplicably decided to help Reigns by taking out Tonga and Loa, with Rhodes hitting another crossroads and Reigns landing a spear. At that point, Reigns finally turned towards Rhodes, and it looked like he was looking at that WWE Championship, but Fatu then decided to put the Ula Fala back onto Sikoa, so Reigns had to look at both of those things at the same time. What a shame, Roman. All these things that you want but just cannot have. Nonetheless, Reigns wasn't quite sure what to do about this. But later on, we had Sikoa telling Aldis off camera that he was issuing a challenge to both Reigns and Rhodes for a tag match against those two with Jacob Fatu. But Rhodes heard about this, he went into Aldis's office and said he was done with the bloodline, saying that there was no way he was signing that contract. Well, Aldis then also told us that Reigns wanted to address this situation in the ring, so thankfully Reigns finally apologized to the crowd for taking all of these months off and not helping out at all. He said that Cody Rhodes was a better man and said he would have to work hard to get all the way back to the top, and he acknowledged Solo Sikoa as the true tribal chief since he gave up that right. And of course none of that happened. Of course not. Of course not. What were we thinking here? That would never happen. So instead, Reigns said some things change, but he does not. He said he certainly doesn't need Aldis's help or that contract, and that this is family business that he needs to take care of, and that he definitely does not need the help of Cody Rhodes. He also says that even though Sikoa, rightfully, has the Ula Fala for the family, that he is still the only tribal chief. And despite taking all of this time off and having no matches since WrestleMania, he said that this was his ring, his show, and his WWE. Well, friends, when Roman Reigns tells you that he's not changing, you should probably believe that and continue to agree that he is a terrible person. So what we're saying here is that when he definitively loses on the biggest stage, and he cheats every single time, and he uses all of his minions to help him to stay in power, so when he still fails after all of that, he goes home and cries and pouts on the couch for months and does not congratulate the true winner at all, and he still comes back many months later and thinks that he runs the joint. This is just truly weird stuff. What a weird guy would do this. Why would anyone think any of these things? It is just the same old tired playbook out of Roman Reigns. We really just need him to go home for good, get him out of here, and never come back so we never have to hear from him again. Well, fortunately, Cody Rhodes realized this right after Reigns said that it was his WWE. He came out and told the truth. He said that it was Roman Reigns' WWE, but not since WrestleMania. So with that, Rhodes dropped the mic and he was ready to protect what he earned, that WWE Championship. So Reigns followed suit and dropped the mic as well, but just when it looked like both of those two were going to go at it, Solo Sikoa's music hit and he and Fatu came out for that challenge, but Tonga and Loa attacked both of them from behind yet again. But again, Rhodes and Reigns got the better of it with a Super Cody Cutter and a Uranagi. So Reigns picked up the contract and signed it Rhodes then stuck out his hand, Reigns handed him the contract, and he signed it. So we will indeed have a tag match with Fatu and Sikoa taking on Reigns and Rhodes at Bad Blood. Well, we did have some other matches, and one of them was a doozy with matchup number 5 between Carmelo Hayes and Andrade. Well, Hayes yet again tried to cheat by attacking Andrade from behind as Andrade was still entering the ring, but Andrade was able to recover from there. Later on, however, Hayes did show that he was learning yet again as he was able to avoid a moonsault, and then instead of getting hit by that second standing moonsault, he was able to get his knees up to stop Andrade. But most of this match was just Andrade being a far superior wrestler, as he wowed the crowd yet again with a moonsault from the post to the floor and an unbelievable Spanish fly off of the barricade onto the floor. Then he landed another vicious back elbow. And even when Hayes was able to counter an attempt at the message, he was able to turn it immediately right back around and hit a destroyer that I don't even know how Hayes was able to stay awake after that one. Well, nonetheless, Andrade wasn't done as he then hit his incredible double knees and then ended it with an incredible swinging net breaker off of the top rope that Michael Cole called the El Grande. So that's a pretty awesome name because it was quite grand. So with that, Andrade picked up the win and goes to 3-2 in their series and stopped his 3-match losing streak, going to 7-3 in one-on-one action. And well, for Hayes, that stopped his 2-match winning streak, both of which were against Andrade, of course, and he is just 3-7-1 in one-on-one action. In our only women's match of the night, we had Michin take on Piper Niven, and Michin immediately hit a suicide dive to the floor against Piper, but that of course led Chelsea to taunt Michin, and she paid for it with a roundhouse kick, and then Michin hitting her with a kendo stick. Well, that gave Piper a quick advantage to hit a cannonball off the apron onto the floor and then took her up into the ring, but Michin turned that around with a belly-to-back suplex off of the turnbuckle and then hit Eat Defeat to defeat Piper. But Chelsea, of course, was not happy with that attack, so she immediately came in and started beating down Michin, and Piper followed that up, crushing those ribs with a senton. And then Chelsea got a trash can and then used it to hit an unprettier to leave Michin lying on the mat. Well, for the match itself, however, Michin gets a much needed win and she stops a 2-match losing streak, going to 2-8 in one-on-one matches. Well, for Piper, this was her first match in 2 months and the ring rust was apparent, losing very quickly here despite Chelsea's interference, and she is 0-4 in all one-on-one action. And in our final match, we had A-Town Down Under taking on Kevin Owens and a mystery partner, and that was Ricky. Yeah, Ricky. Well, after last week, I mean, Kevin probably could have beaten both of those guys with Ricky or with no one at all. So Ricky was probably a pretty good choice, right? Well, nonetheless, Randy Orton turned out to be the real partner. He was just running a little late as usual, and so the beat-up buddies were back together yet again. Always good to see. And of course, that was bad news for A-Town Down Under. And Corey Graves keeps seeming to make a big deal about no one being able to superplex Kevin Owens off of the turnbuckle. And that proved to be true yet again as KO repeatedly hit Waller with several headbutts and did basically the same thing to Theory, landing a swanton on Theory to put an exclamation on that. But then, after Orton finally tagged in, well, KO was feeling rather Viper-like as well, as he joined Orton for that vintage draping DDT. And then I guess KO was hearing the voices in his head as well, as he coiled up and landed a stunner, as Orton was also hitting an RKO, and Orton got the pin on Waller to get the win for the Beat Up Buddies, and they are now 2-2 in traditional tags. So At this point, are they just a real tag team? I mean, the Bloodline themselves, all 4 of those members in any sort of combination only have 4 traditional tags themselves, and they're the tag champs. So why not? Let's give KO and Orton a shot at the titles. Well, for A-Town Down Under, since they lost the titles, they have now fallen 6 out of the last 7 times, and they're just 4 and 8 in traditional tags. And beyond the mat, for SmackDown, we had Nia coming out into the middle of the ring, and she said that Nick Aldis told her that she had to defend the title at Bad Blood, but she didn't know and didn't care who that opponent would be. So Bayley took advantage of the moment and immediately came out and challenged her to a rematch, saying that Nia only beat her due to Tiffy's interference. So Tiffy immediately came out and said that Bayley had to beg like a peasant to get this rematch. So Bayley said that, well, that peasant did indeed beat her last week, and Tiffy then really messed up by saying that it was only because Nia got involved. So Nia gave her quite a look, but fortunately Nia had it in her to look the other way, turn back to Bayley, and merely say that Bayley almost had her. But that wouldn't stop Nia and Tiffy from beating up her right now. So fortunately for Bayley, Naomi came out for protection and also said that she would challenge Nia for the title. So Nia then set up a strange match for next week, which will be a tag match between Nia and Tiffy against both Bayley and Naomi. And the winner would face Nia for the championship, but if they lost, the loser would be gone from SmackDown permanently. And Bayley and Naomi accepted it before that final stipulation was added, but it sure looks like we're just going with that anyways. Well, regardless, Bayley took one final swipe at Tiffy verbally. So Tiffy turned around and tried to hit both of them with the briefcase, but Naomi landed a rear view to put a stop to that. But then backstage, after Jade and Bianca told Saxton that anyone that wanted a piece of them could come and get it, but instead of coming and getting it, Nia merely asked those two if they had heard what had happened to Naomi, which of course was nothing as of the moment. And Nia also said that as long as she is champion, this kingdom belongs to her. And lastly, LA Knight did indeed confirm to Andrade after his match that Andrade was the new #1 contender for the United States title, but he merely won the hit it and quit it sweepstakes. And with that, let's go to STFs. And in tonight's STFs, we of course start with the Bloodline edition, where we had all of the Bloodline surrounding the cage after the steel cage match, and that allowed Sikoa to immediately hit a Samoan spike on Cody Rhodes, and then everybody joined in, so all 4 of them will get a fine. But that wasn't all, because Sikoa and Fatu interrupted Reigns and Rhodes at the end of the night, and that caused a distraction to allow Tonga and Loa to attack those two from behind. So yet again, all 4 Bloodline members pick up their second fines. During Michin's match against Piper Niven, Michin attacked Chelsea with a roundhouse kick and followed that up with a kendo shot. So because she got a weapon involved, we're going to have to give Michin a fine. But then after the match was over, Chelsea immediately attacked Michin, and Piper of course joined in, so both Chelsea and Piper will get fines. After their confrontation in the ring, Tiffy was about to turn around and use her Money in the Bank briefcase against Naomi and Bayley, but even though Tiffy caught a rear view for it, she was the instigator, so Tiffy picks up a fine. Carmelo Hayes attacked Andrade before the bell, trying to get a jump on their 5th match in the series. It eventually didn't work, but Hayes picks up a fine. And lastly, KO couldn't help himself and stunned poor Ricky, who was just there to help him out. So unfortunately for Ricky, that hurt a lot. But for KO, that is of course a fine. Rhodes tried to end the Bloodline feud with a big win inside a steel cage, but Roman Reigns annoyingly returned and got him stuck in a tag team match at Bad Blood. And Andrade tore the house down yet again and regained the lead in his series against Carmelo Hayes. I'm Dr. O'Kay, reporting on the WWE, where everything is okay.